They said he wouldn't make it. Not with the odds stacked against him. Not after losing his parents at just 7 years old. Not after spending years growing up in a crowded orphanage in Brazil, where dreams usually fade before they even begin. But Stephen kept dreaming. Even when the nights were quiet and cold. Even when other kids got adopted, and he was left behind, again and again. Even when he stared at school books he couldn't understand and felt too embarrassed to ask for help. He never gave up. He wasn't the smartest. He wasn't the strongest. But he had something that no one could take from him. A fire inside. A deep desire to become someone. To rise above the life he was handed. To prove that his story wouldn't end the way it started. And now, years later, Stephen runs a digital marketing business that makes over $100,000 a month. He works from anywhere. He helps thousands of people online. And he's built a life of freedom most people only dream about. But this story isn't just about Stephen. It's about you. Because when you hear the full story, the struggle, the breakdowns, the breakthroughs, and the transformation, you might realize something important. You're just one decision away from changing your own life. So if you've ever felt stuck, invisible, or too far behind to catch up, if you've ever thought maybe you missed your chance, don't click away. This might be the moment that changes everything for you. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications. Here, we share real stories of people who went from nothing to building something powerful. No hype. No filters. Just truth, growth, and possibility. Let's begin. Stephen was born in the outskirts of Sao Paulo, Brazil. His mother was a school cafeteria worker. His father, a mechanic. They didn't have much, but there was love, laughter, and warm food on the table. Until the accident. One rainy evening, on their way home from a friend's wedding, his parents' car slid off a highway curve. The metal bent. The sirens came. But the damage was done. Stephen was just 7 years old when he lost both of them. He doesn't remember much from that night, just the flashing red lights and the numb feeling in his chest when he realized they weren't coming back. After that, everything moved fast. Too fast. He was sent to a state-run orphanage, a gray building with chipped walls and overcrowded bunk beds. The kind of place where birthdays were forgotten and hugs were rare. Stephen didn't cry much. Not because he didn't want to, but because he learned quickly that in the orphanage, emotions made you a target. The quiet ones survived. The tough ones made it to the next day. So, Stephen became quiet. He watched. He listened. And deep down he waited. Every Sunday, potential adoptive parents would come visit. Some looked like they were choosing a puppy. Others barely made eye contact. Stephen sat on the bench each time, wearing his only nice shirt, hoping someone would pick him. Months passed. Then years. And the bench began to feel like a cruel joke. But at age 10, something unexpected happened. A couple from a smaller town in Brazil, simple people with kind eyes and warm smiles, decided to take a chance on him. They weren't rich. They didn't live in a fancy city. But they gave Stephen something he hadn't felt in years: safety. He moved into a modest home with 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a mango tree in the backyard. His new father worked as a delivery driver. His new mother baked cakes to sell at the local market. They didn't ask Stephen to be perfect. They just asked him to try. But school was another story. Stephen struggled. He didn't know how to study. He couldn't focus. While other kids read fast and raised their hands, Stephen fell behind. He stared at math problems like they were written in another language. He failed more than once. And soon, teachers labeled him lazy, dumb, a kid with no future. He heard the whispers. He saw the eyes rolling. Even the well-meaning ones gave up on him eventually. But what no one knew, what even Stephen didn't understand yet, was that his mind just worked differently. He wasn't wired for memorization. He was wired for something else. In the quiet hours, Stephen would sneak his foster mom's old smartphone. No data. Just offline games and a cracked screen. One day, he discovered an app that let him make fake logos for fake companies. Just for fun. He started designing fake ads, pretending to sell candy or cleaning products. He didn't know it then, but he was learning something powerful. At 13, he begged for a prepaid SIM card just to access YouTube. Not to watch funny videos, but to learn. He typed in things like, how to start a business, how to make money online, what is digital marketing. He didn't understand half of it at first, but he watched anyway. Again and again, night after night. He'd pause the video, write down a word, look it up in Portuguese, then press play again. By 15, while his classmates joked about skipping school, Stephen was selling his first digital service, a logo designed for a local fruit stand. It paid about $3. But to him, it was gold. Not just money, but proof. Proof that he could create something people needed. And with that spark, he began to build. He'd go to school by day and spend his nights learning Canva, then Photoshop, then social media tools. He taught himself how to make Instagram ads, how to write short captions that sell, how to build a brand identity even if the brand was just a corner store. He wasn't an expert. He wasn't confident. But he was consistent. That was the secret. At 17, he launched a small Instagram page where he offered simple marketing tips in Portuguese. No fancy equipment. No face on camera. Just value. He posted daily, without fail. And slowly, his account grew. 50 followers turned into 500. Then 1,000. One day, a local entrepreneur messaged him. She ran a small cosmetics brand and needed help reaching more people. Stephen crafted her Instagram strategy, redesigned her content, and gave her a new tagline. Within a month, her sales doubled. She paid him $50. He nearly cried when he received it. That was the turning point. He realized this wasn't a game anymore. He had skills. Real ones. Skills that businesses needed. And he could trade those skills for income. Not just once, but over and over again. But it wasn't all smooth. There were still nights when he questioned everything. Still moments of doubt. People laughed when he said he wanted to run his own business. Teachers told him to aim lower. His foster dad worried he was wasting time online instead of studying for a stable job. But Stephen couldn't unsee what he'd seen. He knew there was a bigger world out there. A digital world. A world where value mattered more than degrees. Where stories like his were just the beginning. He kept learning. Courses, podcasts, free ebooks, anything he could find. He saved up enough to buy a used laptop, and with that, everything changed. He launched his own site, started a YouTube channel sharing beginner marketing tips, offered free value to small business owners and freelancers. And then, he began to charge. Slowly, his client base grew. Not just in Brazil, but overseas. People from the US, Europe, and Asia were hiring him for brand makeovers, email campaigns, digital launches. By 21, he registered his own marketing agency. By 23, he had 4 remote team members. By 25, he had clients in 9 countries. And now, he makes over $100,000 per month. From the orphanage bench to a 6-figure business. This is Stephen's backstory. But the story isn't over. Now comes the part where everything shifts, the part where we dig into the transformation, the mindset that carried him through, and how he turned quiet dreams into global results. Keep watching. Stephen sat at his desk in his small Sao Paulo apartment, the fan humming in the background, trying to drown out the chaos of the city. His cheap laptop, a gift from his adoptive father when he turned 18, buzzed with the weight of Google Chrome and a dozen open tabs. The year was 2017. He had just turned 21. No degree. No job. Just a head full of dreams and a heart that refused to quit. He had tried everything. Selling handmade bracelets at the local market. Flipping used phones. Taking surveys online. Nothing worked. But he wasn't angry. He was hungry. Deep inside, he believed that he could create a new life. Something wildly different from the one the world had handed him. Then one night, while watching YouTube videos about side hustles, Stephen stumbled on something that changed everything. A quiet, Well-produced video talked about digital marketing. The narrator explained how businesses were desperately looking for people to run their ads, manage their content, and help them grow online. You didn't need a degree. You didn't need money to start. You just needed skill, consistency, and resilience. Stephen had all three. He just didn't know it yet. That night, he made a decision. He wrote down 3 words on a sticky note and stuck it to the wall above his desk. Learn. Apply. Repeat. The next morning, he woke up at 5:30 a.m., grabbed a cold shower, brewed black coffee, and opened YouTube again. He didn't watch for entertainment anymore. He was studying. Marketing funnels. Copywriting. Facebook ads. SEO. Email sequences. He consumed knowledge like a starving man at a feast. In 2 months, he had filled an entire notebook with handwritten notes. Not fancy notes, just scribbles, arrows, diagrams, and underlines. But that notebook became his treasure map. He found a free trial for a digital course on copywriting. He signed up, completed every module, and rewrote the lessons in his own words. He created mock Facebook ad campaigns using Canva. He built fake landing pages just for practice. He offered to help a small bakery around the corner manage their Instagram for free, just to learn. The owner, an older woman named Teresa, smiled at him and said, "You really think people will buy more cake if I post pictures every day?" Stephen nodded. "They will if I write the right words." He worked for her for free for a month. Her sales doubled. She started recommending him to other small businesses. That's how Stephen got his first paying client, a friend of Teresa's who owned a gym. They paid him $150 to run ads on Facebook. It wasn't much, but it was the moment. The first time someone paid him not for physical labor, but for his mind. From there, it was a snowball. By the end of 2018, Stephen had 6 clients, all local businesses. He made enough to move out of his small shared apartment and rent a studio. He bought a better laptop. He invested in real courses, read books like .com Secrets, The One-Page Marketing Plan, and Atomic Habits. His favorite quote became, "You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." So Stephen built systems. He created a routine. Wake up at 5:30. Learn for an hour. Outreach for an hour. Work for clients. Post content on LinkedIn. Improve one skill every week. No excuses. No weekends off. In 2019, Stephen took a leap. He launched his own agency, just a name and a landing page. Orphan Media. A reminder of where he came from and what he stood for. It was just him, a free logo from Canva, and 3 local clients. But he was determined to grow. He began cold emailing startups in the US and Europe. Most ignored him. Some responded. A few laughed at his broken English. But one replied and said, "Your pitch isn't perfect, but your attitude is. Let's talk." That client paid him $1,000 a month. Then referred him to another. And another. Soon, Stephen was earning more than he had ever imagined possible, $4,000 a month by mid-2019. To him, it felt like $1 million. He reinvested every dollar. Bought better tools. Upgraded his branding. Hired a virtual assistant in the Philippines. Built a small team. He made mistakes. Hired the wrong people. Lost a few clients. Burned out. Once, a campaign failed so badly a client accused him of fraud. But Stephen didn't quit. He apologized, refunded the client, and studied everything that went wrong. He didn't see failure as the end, only as data. Then came the pandemic in 2020. Businesses were shutting down. Fear was everywhere. But Stephen saw an opportunity. Companies were desperate to move online. Those who had never considered digital marketing suddenly needed it to survive. Stephen launched a free webinar. How to take your brick-and-mortar business online in 30 days. He taught what he knew in simple, clear Portuguese with subtitles in English. Over 300 people attended. His email list grew from 200 to 10,000 in a month. He launched a course. Not a flashy, overpriced info product, just a simple, actionable program for small business owners. Priced at $97. It sold over 1,000 copies in the first 3 months. By the end of 2020, Stephen was earning $30,000 a month. More than he ever thought was possible. He registered his agency officially. Opened a business account. started paying taxes. And most importantly, he brought his adoptive parents to live with him in a better neighborhood. For the first time in his life, he felt like he could breathe. But Stephen wasn't done. In 2021, he doubled down. He hired real designers, professional copywriters, launched a YouTube channel sharing his story, and digital marketing tips in both Portuguese and English. His first video hit 100,000 views in 2 weeks. The comments were filled with things like, "I'm an orphan too. You just gave me hope. I thought I was too poor to start. You proved me wrong. You're living proof that mindset beats circumstances." His DMs were full. People wanted coaching, mentorship, and inspiration. Stephen realized he was no longer just running an agency. He was becoming a brand. So he evolved, rebranded to Stephen Digital, created a mentorship program, started charging premium prices. His monthly revenue crossed $50,000, then $70,000, then $100,000. He traveled to Dubai, met other entrepreneurs, and spoke on a panel about resilience in business. He cried on stage, told his story. The audience gave him a standing ovation. He was no longer the boy from the orphanage. He was a digital entrepreneur with impact. A builder, a mentor, a millionaire. But he never forgot where he came from. He began donating 10% of his income to orphanages in Brazil. He funded laptops and online education for kids, like the boy he once was. And in 2023, he returned to the very orphanage where he grew up, not as a visitor, but as a sponsor. As he stood in front of those children, holding a mic with tears in his eyes, he said, "You don't need perfect parents, or a rich background, or even a college degree. You need a dream that won't die, a reason to wake up, and the courage to keep going when everything seems impossible. That's how I made it. And you can too." Stephen stood on the edge of his apartment balcony, overlooking Sao Paulo's glowing skyline. A place he once feared he'd never escape had become the view from his own penthouse suite. It wasn't luck. It wasn't magic. It was the result of a transformation, one built day by day, habit by habit, and risk by risk. Now, with a digital marketing agency pulling in over $100,000 a month, Stephen's journey wasn't just about success. It was about proving that your story doesn't have to define your outcome. But what exactly happened between being a struggling young man in a small Brazilian town and becoming a self-made entrepreneur with a global client base? Let's break it down. Stephen's success didn't happen overnight. It was the result of 7 foundational steps that built his personal brand, his business, and his future. Step 1 was self-education. Stephen realized early that school wasn't going to teach him how to change his life. He turned to free resources, YouTube tutorials, marketing blogs, podcasts. He would spend hours learning about digital tools, social media algorithms, email marketing, and brand psychology. At first, none of it made total sense. But he didn't stop. He set a rule for himself: learn one new thing every day. He started keeping a daily learning log. Every video he watched, every concept he didn't understand, he would study it until it clicked. Step 2 was skill stacking. Stephen wasn't great at coding or design, but he became decent at many small things. He learned to write copy that could sell. He understood how ads worked. He figured out how to grow an Instagram page and drive traffic. He didn't try to master everything, just enough to be dangerous in each area. Eventually, these combined skills became his superpower. A client didn't need to hire 5 people. They had Stephen, who could do a little of everything well. Step 3 was building a personal brand. At the start, Stephen didn't even show his face. He created anonymous content pages about motivation and entrepreneurship on Instagram and TikTok. He used those pages to test what content went viral. He learned what triggered curiosity, what made people click, what drove emotion. Once he had confidence, he stepped into the spotlight and made his own personal account. His brand was real, raw, and inspiring. He didn't pretend to be a millionaire. He showed the process. That transparency made people trust him. Step 4 was working for free. At 19, Stephen offered to run social media accounts for 3 small local businesses, for no pay. His goal wasn't money. It was testimonials, case studies, and experience. In 6 months, he helped a local gym grow from 300 to 5,000 Instagram followers and increase memberships by 30%. He turned that result into a pitch deck and started emailing potential clients. With a proven track record, he could now charge. Step 5 was scaling with systems. Once Stephen had 5 paying clients, he realized he couldn't do everything alone. He hired 2 remote freelancers, one for graphic design and one for scheduling posts. Then, he built templates for client onboarding, monthly reports, and content planning. These systems freed up his time, so he could focus on strategy and growth. Within a year, he wasn't just a freelancer. He had a full-service agency with processes that made clients feel supported and professional. Step 6 was creating leverage. Stephen began offering online digital products, a $27 ebook on social media growth, a $97 mini-course on how to start your own agency, and a $497 mentorship program. He used content marketing and email funnels to promote them. The key? He had already built an audience that trusted him. People weren't buying because of hype. They were buying because they had seen his story. His personal brand did the heavy lifting. Step 7 was reinvesting profits. Instead of spending his first big checks on luxury, Stephen invested back into the business. He hired a sales closer. He paid for better video equipment. He outsourced tasks he hated. He even flew to conferences in the U.S. to network and learn. Each reinvestment made his agency stronger. His revenue went from $8,000 per month to $30,000 per month within 6 months. Eventually, he hit 6 figures per month. But it wasn't just about the money. Stephen began mentoring other youth from underprivileged backgrounds. He launched a scholarship fund for aspiring digital marketers in Brazil. He donated laptops to orphanages. He spoke at high schools, reminding teens that where you start is not where you must end. And now, his mission is to help others do the same. Here's the truth. No matter your background, your trauma, or your current circumstances, you have the power to learn, to grow, and to change your future. It doesn't matter if you failed school, if you have no money, or if people don't believe in you. Stephen is living proof that the internet gives everyone a chance, if you're willing to put in the work. So if you're watching this and thinking, I want to change my life too, here's a simplified action plan to get started. First, pick a skill that's in demand online. This could be social media management, email marketing, copywriting, video editing, or running ads. Use YouTube to learn. You don't need a course yet. Just absorb everything. Second, create a simple portfolio. Use Canva or Notion. Show mock examples of your work if you don't have clients yet. Third, offer your services for free to 1 to 2 local businesses. Over-deliver. Use their results as testimonials. Fourth, build your personal brand. Start posting short videos sharing what you learn, the mistakes you make, and tips for others starting out. You don't need to be an expert. Just be honest and helpful. Fifth, charge your first $300 to $500 per month client. Use that income to reinvest into tools, mentorship, or improving your content quality. Sixth, scale. Hire help. Build systems. Raise your prices. Launch a product. Keep learning. Seventh, pay it forward. Help someone else rise. Just like Stephen did. This is more than a video. It's your invitation to a different life. And if you've made it this far, I want you to comment below. My story is just beginning. Let the world know that you're no longer accepting your limits as your destiny. If this video inspired you, subscribe to the channel. We tell stories of people who rise from nothing, who turn pain into purpose, and dreams into reality. And if you're serious about learning the exact steps to grow a digital business, check the description. We've added resources, guides, and tools that can help you start today, no matter your level. Stephen would tell you this. You don't have to be born into success. You just have to believe that your story isn't over. Follow me for more real stories, tools for your journey, and motivation that actually shows you how to get there. Your dreams are valid. Your past does not disqualify you. Start today. Because someone like you is already on their way, and that someone could be you.